Why group practice? It's a long and tiring journey to become a specialist, and even a very, very tiring if you are a super specialist. You have spent a lot of years, and then you actually, I would say, dug yourself into a hole, because like say somebody would be just an ocular pathologist, or somebody would be only doing an oculoplasty. But well, that does not always mean that you're going to survive on that. There are n number of cases where a glaucoma consultant also does a lot of other specialty, because to survive they need to do other specialties also. I can give my example. I when I finished my masters, I joined my fellowship in cataract and refractive cataract. At that time there was no refractive surgery in 1992, and then I went on to do a fellowship in cornea. But there wasn't enough work in cornea to make me survive. So I had to actually do more things. At that time, there was only keratoplasty, and that wasn't also not enough. So I then again became a cataract surgeon. Well, but I had another option, and that is I started a group practice in 1992, 15 December to be precise. Right? Why? Because I need to justify my specialty also. If I keep on doing cornea or keratoplasties, I would have not been able to work for the whole day and would have been killing my time doing something which I should have not been doing. Well, what did I do? I spent my time in setting up a neutral surgical center at that moment of time. So the main advantage was that you have the access to the best, right? Once you are in a group, you have an access to the best. How? For example, when we started our practice, FACO was not doing that great. One of the reasons was that people used to condemn FACO for the only reason that they were not doing it. Our group started operating phacoemulsification surgeries for other doctors. What happened? Very soon, Ahmedabad became a hotbed for phacoemulsification, and probably all companies were selling more phaco machines in Ahmedabad than even Mumbai or Delhi at that moment of time. So this is how I justify access to the best. Okay, just like we were discussing with Dr. Rohit, not to lose or send a patient. So whenever you are in a group, and if your group is complete, what happens is that you don't need to lose a patient or send a patient. Well, when I say lose a patient, I mean it is referring a patient. It so happens that when you refer a patient, there is a fair chance that the patient might then continue his or her practice with the doctor to whom you have already referred the patient, right? So whenever you are in a group and whenever you have access to almost everything in the group, well, you do refer a patient, but then it is not outside your group. You do send a patient, but then it is not outside your hospital. It is in the next room, and the next room also belongs to you. That is the biggest advantage of a group practice. Of course, it gives you a better quality of life, because I'll tell you what, in 92 when I started my clinic, if the door opens, I was so anxious. I would look at the door whether it's a friend, a relative, or a paying patient. And at the end of the day, if you have not seen enough patients, you go home and it does not translate well in your home also. So this is one very good aspect, that you have a better quality of life. This was one example. There are many more which will make your quality of life better. Of course, there are all the other advantages of a group practice. Well, you share investment, you share maintenance, because you might be a good clinician, but you might not be a good administrator. You might not be able to, you just want to go to the clinic, see some patients, perform some surgeries, and come back home. Well, but does that mean in a private practice that you can only do that? No. You go to the clinic and then you might find out that the electricity is not working. You might see that the staff has not come. You might see that some instrument has conked off. Well, and you actually end up tearing your hair if you have And uh, ultimately, the frustration translates to your treatment. So this is how you share your maintenance. Very important now is the legal responsibilities. In a group, you do not only share your legal responsibilities, but you kind of make yourself cocoon in a way that, okay, well, I have always somebody to fall back. I have always somebody with whom I can discuss, and you can discuss very frankly. And that is why this is a very, very important aspect of a group practice. Like I mentioned in the beginning, there are different types of group practice. There can be, depending on your demography and your requirement, a variety of group practices. One very familiar and uh, uh, another type of group is a limited group, or a limited group where it's only either a diagnostic or a surgical, or it's a combined practice. This is the type of practice where you come together to run or share a limited scope of facilities. That is, a LASIK center is a very classical example. There are so many uh, neutral LASIK centers. Similarly, there are many cities where they have a diagnostic center. If you want certain investigations like a very high-end optical biometer, you want a OCT, you want a perimeter, you want a ultrasound, a UBM, you want a specular microscope, and it is not possible to justify the high investment because you might be doing only a few cases. Well, you can have a group having a diagnostic center. Here, the difference is your OPDs are not a part of the group, or it might so happen we have actually been able to conceive a couple of such groups where it's not only the OPD but the cataract center is also their own, because cataract is what almost everybody does. So these are the groups where the OPD and cataract is their own. But for all other requirements, they go to their own center. So this is a limited group, and this is also a very successful model. In fact, this could be the beginning of, or the first step towards a total group. In Ahmedabad also, to begin with, we started as a neutral surgical center, but just in a couple of years' time, we went into a total group, because the reason was that all the doctors who started visiting our diagnostic and surgical center, we started knowing their volumes. So one fine day, a huge trust um, had already been created. We actually even knew our type of and the scope of practice, and we knew our weaknesses and our strength. Very soon, we developed ourselves into a group, into a total group. And when I say total group, every aspect of a private practice is shared. So there is no me, it is only us. In this type of a group practice, everything is us. So every penny goes to the group, and hence there is no conflict of interest. This is, to me, the best possible way of practicing in the present scenario. Yes, you can have a limited group, but again, understand, if you have anything in which you are a solo practitioner, the condition is known as shutters down, meter down. I hope you all understand the concept. The moment you leave your practice, even for a week, all the other expenses are growing, but your income is negligible. You might be able to find somebody who will run your center, but well, you are never very comfortable with that. You are always anxious. You are always worried. What will the stopgap or the locum doctor be doing in your clinic? True? Do you all agree to that? You can write in the chat box if you can agree to that. A group practice. What are the certain questions that come to you when you are joining? What will I get? What is the assurance or a guarantee that I will do better? Very important is what will other get? Sorry, what will others get? Females. This is one very important topic that I'm going to touch upon after others have spoken, and a mixed bag of participants. Right. So these are all the points that come to a mind whenever you are trying to